Hello and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm your host, Conley Zani. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our Portsmouth Town Administrator. Together, Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by introducing you to the leaders, the personalities, the faces that make up this very magical place that we live. I'm honored today to have as a guest Jim Garman. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
I tell you, Jim, this is my favorite kind of Portsmouth This Week interview to do because you are one of those faces of Portsmouth. And you came up as a potential guest because you are a very recent winner of the Portsmouth Award. Right? Can you tell me a little bit about what that is all about?
Sure. The Portsmouth Award is an award given by the town to someone who has provided, and it's on a, people make recommendations, things like that, someone who has provided a good service to the town over time. Yeah. And I've been writing local history for almost 50 years now, so maybe it was time, but it's an honor from the town. It really is to be recognized.
Oh, well, yes, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And you are officially the Portsmouth Town Historian, right?
Yes.
Since about 2013, even though I know you've...
Yeah, that was a result of the 375th that we did back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So I even think maybe this Portsmouth award was inspired. Didn't a group go over to Portsmouth, England, and...
Yeah, number of people did do that. I didn't, but I've been working on things like the Battle of Rhode Island reenactments and all that since 1978. So, and I was involved as photographer and historian for 78 and 03. So.
Oh my God! Well, okay, so let's rewind about your incredible life. Like, you were certainly a history nerd. Yeah. I love it. And you were born, what, Pennsylvania? Like, let's just back up and talk about where you went to school and how'd you get the history bug?
I was born in western Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. Yeah. And when I was young, after my father died, we moved into Pittsburgh. So I went to high school and college and graduate school years when I was in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And I went to Gettysburg College. And when you run cross country at Gettysburg College, you're running through battlefield monuments all over the place.
Wow.
And so that helped educate me about the Civil War, which
inspire you a little, I'm sure.
My undergraduate and graduate majors are in Civil War history. And then I went to Emory University in Atlanta and got my master's there. Okay, all right. Then I signed up for OCS and came to Newport, and I've been here ever since.
OCS is Officer
Candidate School. For the Navy, yeah.
Okay, right. And you were like coming into Newport on a destroyer or something, right?
I was home ported here. After I graduated from school, I was home ported on a destroyer in Newport, the USS Compton, and 3 years on that. And while that happened, at the end of that, I got married to a fifth warder from Newport, and
fifth warders.
So here I am.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, all right. So Newport was home down there, and then you came up to Portsmouth, or were you guys living?
Well, I was on the ship, and then when I got out of the Navy, and we lived in Newport just briefly, but then we got a chance to get a job at Portsmouth Abbey School, Portsmouth Priory School then, and so I came here to the Abbey in 1965, and I stayed there for 39 years and retired in 04.
Let me guess, were you teaching history?
I was teaching American.
I'm just teasing. I don't really know the answer to that.
American, Russian, Asian, and photography.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jim, that's incredible. You're saying those languages, or Russian history.
Russian history.
I see. Okay.
I can do French, Spanish, but I can't do Russian. It is really hard, and I've been there. We toured there 10 years ago. Okay. The language is very difficult.
Oh, sure.
But anyway, I do the history, and I taught that. And I still teach. I teach at Salve in Circle of Scholars, and I teach courses in Russian and American history. So. And local history, especially local history.
All right. Well, we'll get to the local history, but I want to nerd out with you for just a second. What do you love? Like, what was your favorite thing to teach? I mean, clearly you got your hand in a lot. So, what was like the most fascinating?
Well, mostly American history, but you know, I still kept a long interest in American Civil War, and I got involved in Russian history because one of my colleagues left the school, and I said, we really should teach that. This is in 1968, 1970. I said, we really have to know something about Russia. And so I started teaching it, and I taught it until 2002 every year. And I've taught that at Circle Scholars too. But it's a fascinating history. It's an incredible history, and it's a very sad situation right now. But it was really doing the research, going back to 858 AD. There's just a lot of history there, and it's interesting.
Are you a big believer of, like, history informs what's happening now?
Yeah, we learn a lot from the past. We really do. We should learn more, but we really do. There's a lot of, I mean, I read history at breakfast, okay? I mean, I'm reading it all the time. And I have about 4,000 books, and I love it.
Clearly, that is awesome. So, interest in Civil War, your undergraduate and master's. I know you studied the Union side maybe as an undergrad, and then your master's pivoted to the Confederate perspective.
We're in Gettysburg for the North, and you go to Atlanta, Georgia for the South.
Yeah, right.
And study under one of the really extraordinary Southern Civil War historians, a man by the name of Dr. Bell Wiley. He was really outstanding. He was on the National Civil War Centennial Commission and everything. He was really high power.
All right. Yeah. Well, so is the Battle of Rhode Island, you said you're involved in that here. Mm-hmm. That's a Civil War?
No, it's Revolutionary War. 1778.
Okay, I thought we were going to go a deep dive on Civil War. So, all right. But
well, it was interesting. I wrote a bibliography for my master's thesis in Atlanta, and I did a project for the Georgia State Department of Archives and History, and out of the blue, about a year ago, I wrote to them and I said, "Are you still using that?" And they said, "Oh, it's a very important source for our work." And I said, "I did that in 1961."
Oh wow! Jim,
so
that's cool.
And they're still using it. And
that's so cool, right?
And they published a work that I did when I was there for a summer internship. So
yeah, well, I know you are very prolific in your work, and I mean,
trying.
How many books have you?
6 books on Newport County history. Yeah, mostly Portsmouth, but the whole county.
Well, okay, so let's go a little local here. Let's start with those books. What were kind of the big things you hit?
Okay, what happened was in 1974, I got involved in the Historical Society, and I said, there are a lot of old houses in this town, but there's no record. And so I decided I would do a book of photographs and dating of a lot of the old houses in the town. And I went to the town records and everything and tried to track them all back and everything, and I published that in 1976.
About the homes? About
different houses, trying to, and sadly, a lot of those are gone now.
Oh, really?
Too many of them. But then after that, I decided, well, I should write a history of the town. So that was the next one. I wrote a history of Portsmouth, 1978, and which very much needs to be updated right now because it's a lot of years ago that was done.
Yeah, sure.
But and then I got really involved in, and I got a sabbatical from the Abbey for a semester, and transportation, trolleys, railroads, steamboats, and ferries.
Yes.
On the island, on and off the island.
Yes.
And that's my favorite book that I did. I really like that one a lot.
Well, I've seen a lecture that you've done on that kind of thing, and it is clear that your passion comes through, and it's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, there's so much involved with that. I mean, just think about streetcars going by the street right out front here, and so on, and heading for Fall River. And
tell us a few other cool things about that book, like. Well, I don't know, fun facts or really interesting things that really get you charged up.
There was one bridge off the island, the Stone Bridge. That was it.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to go, you had to take a ferry to Jamestown or take a ferry to Bristol or wherever across. When the bridge wasn't functioning, and it didn't function a lot, ferries across the Saconnet. And I mean, and then the railroads down the other side of the island, and which was very important. I mean, there were 8 trains in and out of Newport every day in 1910, and passenger trains. as well as freight trains, obviously. And the freight trains were really important for Portsmouth's economic development. When we had Weyerhaeuser and we had Kaiser and all of that, they were very useful for that. Then it all died when they took the bridge down.
Wow.
Steamboats. I mean, I have a great deal of information on the Fall River Line, and a lot of stuff for there. One resource for that I might mention is that there was a man by the name of Leonard Panaggio who wrote a local history column for the Daily News for about 35 years.
Yeah.
He died about 8 years ago, and 2 years ago I got access to his files.
Yeah.
35 file cabinets of notes.
Well, this is like Christmas for you, right? You're like, woo!
Well, a lot of it's newspaper stuff, and what's interesting is the Daily News, Titanic in trouble off Greenland. Next day, 1,350 people die on the Titanic. I mean, it was just as it was happening, and a lot of newspaper clippings. So I've been mining that. Fortunately, his daughter has really been very nice to me to allow me to take stuff that I want. So.
Oh, that is incredible. So I know of him. I recently ran across an article that he wrote related to Common Fence Point. And as you know, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary. And so he had pulled up something about the event that they threw in 1922 or so, where it was just the opening of the hall, and it cost a whopping $5,000. And, it was just like a who's who and who was there. And I'm actually we're having our party this weekend to celebrate. I'm planning on reading that little clip.
Oh, that's great.
And that was a Panaggio. So I really found him very fascinating. And I'm a little jealous you now kind of have all these cabinets full of great, really interesting things.
Well, I have a whole file folder on the Church Brothers fisheries that were there, that eventually about 1923, 24 were squeezed out by the people who came and built cottages and things like that.
Yeah, they wanted their homes, not the...
I can imagine the smell.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm actually really hoping we'll do a lecture soon. We're talking maybe January, get you out and hit some other really interesting things about the north end of the island in particular.
Absolutely.
And that will be very cool. We'll do that offline. But anyway, I've totally derailed. Let's get back to the books. We were talking about your transportation book.
Yep. I'm trying to keep them all on track in my mind. I did one on the Gentleman Farms of Portsmouth, which is Glen Farms, Sandy Point, and Oakland, and the Vanderbilts and the Taylors and those people. I was on the Glen Manor House Commission for about 25 years when it started.
Were you really?
And so we got it going, but just sitting down there having meetings, I started, you look around and say, wow, somebody lived in this house,
I know, right?
And so that got me inspired. That plus all the, the farm buildings and everything, got me inspired to really do a lot of research on that. And I have very significant files on the Portsmouth Vanderbilts especially. I have all kinds of things on.
So things are clearly changing quickly with the Glen Manor House, right? You're probably
Very much
aware,
so.
right?
Yeah.
As a historian, are you go change? Are you oh my gosh, how's it feel?
I got invited to a meeting when they were just beginning to make that transition.
I'm sure you did. They're probably we need Jim to weigh in here.
But I didn't get invited after that, and I just wondered what was, I know the caterers are taking over it and everything, but it's a treasure. It's just, and when we took it over with Dick Cosmini and Barbara Kearney back in the 70s, the town absolutely wanted to bulldoze it because it was just, what are we going to do with it?
Right.
They wanted to keep the school. They bought the property for the school, which has been bulldozed.
Right.
but the
house
is still there, and it's a great treasure. And I could tell you lots of stories about the Taylor family. I won't get into that, but
we could do a soap opera or something.
A couple of whom are still around, and one of whom is a friend of mine. So.
All right. Well, we'll save that for another conversation. But
so that was another book.
I think that the people of Portsmouth do feel like some of these places are treasures. I sense that in this community, and that's nice. As an outsider, I've only been here just a little over 10 years, which definitely makes me, an outsider still, right? Like even
I've had people come to me after lectures and say, how can you write our town history? You weren't born here. I said, well, I've been doing it for almost 50 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I research.
Right. Well, that is really cool that you've made this place the place, the focus, and
That's what I do.
we're all the beneficiaries of that. So grateful.
We need more new people doing it, though.
I know.
Yeah. Gloria Schmidt does a lot, and she's in Texas half the year, and
and she turns it into plays and books, right?
Yeah, she's done several books.
Yeah.
And it's just, we need more people, more younger people to get involved in it because it's going to disappear.
Right. Well, maybe they'll watch this show and be inspired
There you go.
call you up and
Come to the lectures, contact me.
Yeah, well, we were just saying about a recent lecture you had done where you had a young person taking notes next to her mom, and you're like,
unusual.
what? That is unusual, but that's very cool.
That is, it really is.
Yeah.
And we need get more local history into the schools as well.
Right. I know long ago they used to get the kids on the buses out to the Historical Society and the farms and everything, and that's, I'm sure with COVID, harder and harder to do, and just limited resources. But
I've forgotten the book. I can't remember one, missing somewhere. The last one that I did, though, was Historic Tales of Newport County.
Oh.
And that has a lot of Newport history in it. It has Tiverton history in it. It has mostly Portsmouth history. But that was my biggest and longest book. That was 200 and some pages. And all my books I self-published. I went to printers and got them, and Bob Hamilton did a couple, and other people. And since I did the last one, though, almost all of the 3 printers that I used are all out of business in terms of producing books. So, but it's a lot of work, and I marketed everything too. I mean,
you did it all.
I did everything. Yeah.
You did it all. Well,
I still have some. The last 2, the Gentleman Farms and the Historic Tales of Portsmouth, are the only ones I have left. The others are all gone. And I look on my shelf every once in a while and I say, do I still have one of those from the beginning? Make sure I still have it.
So can we go to the library and see it?
They are in the library.
Okay, they are in the library.
They're small books. They aren't really huge tomes, but the last couple were pretty long. But it's just my commitment to saying what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I know in addition to writing it all down, you are an avid photographer, and you love, maybe that's even more of a passion, would you say?
Well, I got involved in, my wife taught nursing school, and one of her students was getting married and wanted a photographer. This was 1980. And so I said, she wanted me to photograph her wedding. I said, I've never photographed a wedding. I don't know how to do it. Well, over the next 24 years, I photographed 968 weddings.
Oh my gosh, that there qualifies you for the Portsmouth Town Historian right there. I'm sure you've done everybody.
Well, and it's funny. I had some doctor's visits in the last couple of months, and all 3 doctors I went to, I had photographed their weddings.
That's great.
But I also did other stuff. I got to photograph President George, the first George Bush, one time at a reception, and we did family portraits. We did everything. We did it all. It was fun.
Wow.
Second hobby while I was teaching.
Yeah. Well, and you said you taught a class on photography too.
Yes, I did that. We had a darkroom
and it's
course.
really changed over the years, right?
I got out just about the time that digital really took off. I mean, we were doing darkroom stuff, and I had my own darkroom also. Yeah. And a lot of times when people would loan me old pictures of Portsmouth, I'd copy them in my darkroom, and that helped build up my collection of stuff a lot.
Oh, I've been in a darkroom. I remember when I was, let's call it junior high school, for our yearbook, I was in a darkroom, and man, have things changed. There's something kind of beautiful and artsy about that I sort of miss.
There is, for sure.
Right?
You control the contrast a lot, and Fieldstone's restaurant is expanding, and all the pictures that are in there now were from my collection of stuff. now they want some more pictures for the new expansion, so I'm working on some
Well,
of that.
I am sure you're going to be,
But you can do digital now. I don't have my darkroom anymore.
yeah.
But I spend a lot of hours in the darkroom, I'll tell you.
That's so fun.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So let's talk postcards.
Okay.
I know that's another area that you've got quite a collection,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
I started collecting, well, actually, interestingly, I started collecting baseball cards a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I had about 10 albums or 15 albums of those, and 10 years ago I sold them. Got a lot of money for them. But then I said, well, I have postcards too and photographs. I should put those in albums. Well, each album today has somewhere in the vicinity of 150 photographs and postcards in them.
Wow.
I have 80 albums.
Oh my gosh. I don't know where you're storing all of this, Jim. Like, I mean,
A lot of it's on the floor.
It's on the floor. Like, if I come to your house, like what's happening? Like, are we like winding through all of this stuff?
But I had a professor at Salve died, and her friends gave me all her collection of stuff. And other people have done that too. I've gotten, accumulated other collections of things, and I have a couple rooms full at this point.
Yeah.
And I have to decide what to do with them.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's actually, I know we're laughing, but like, you have such a collection of things so important to Portsmouth, and I know you are very involved with the Historical Society. You're a past president of the Historical Society, and I'm sure they keep a lot of some of the really good stuff, but there's got to be a lot of stuff like in your office at your home, right? Like, so...
I trip over it all the time.
Yeah.
File boxes.
I think that's an interesting thing we all need to be thinking about, we Portsmouth.
But what I also do is I look at it. I'll be watching TV or something, and I'll take down an album and start looking through it and reminding myself of what's there. And that's what gives me the ideas for the lectures and everything. Do I have enough for this? Do I have enough for that? And I mean, I've done, I don't know, probably 30, 35 lectures about local history, and I do more.
And it kind of starts with that inspiration from an album or something.
Yeah, the photography is what draws you into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really, wow, look at that. Here's the stone bridge and a ferry going through it or something like that. I said, wow, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Ferries bounced off the stone bridge a few times. That was a problem.
I believe that. So you threw out a number of something like 4,000, 5,000 photos or something, like in these albums, right? So I can only imagine, too, as you pull together a lecture, where you got days of runway as you go through all of this stuff, right?
Yeah, it just, I mean, I have an album, for example, an album of Glen Farm photographs.
Okay.
Another album of Glen Farm research. Sandy Point Farm, same thing. Oakland Farm, same thing. I have 2 albums for each of those, one of which is text, one of which is photographs. And, it's fairly easy to put it all together.
Well, you're way more organized than...
I am organized, I have to say that.
You have to be, right?
But if you walked into my office, you would not think so.
Are you one of those people that, like, know where everything is?
Yes, I am.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Well, part of why I mentioned the postcards is I'm recalling that you shared that there are actually postcard convention kind of things that happen.
Yeah, what used to be, let me put it this way, first of all, you can get a lot of postcards off eBay, but I don't anymore because I have too many. But there was a Rhode Island postcard.
It's an addiction.
There is well, I'll just tell you this, there's a Rhode Island postcard club that meets probably 8 times a year or so, and one month they have a big show where they have dealers. I went to one last couple of weeks ago, and there were 13 dealers there from all over New England. I only bought 15 new postcards. I mean, but I used to go to flea markets. I started at Island Park, and then I went up to Norton and other places there and started collecting them. And but the Rhode Island Postcard Club it's withering a little bit because of eBay. People are buying them there instead. But it's a still thriving opportunity, and I just bought 15 local ones a couple of weeks ago. The only problem is that what I used to get for 50 cents and 75 cents, I'm now paying $15, $18 for some of them.
Really?
Well, they know I'm coming.
What's the most expensive postcard you've bought? Like what's
$75.
$75. What was it?
It was a picture of a street scene in Island Park, in Little Compton, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Little Compton. And going up the road was a very heavy-duty hay wagon. Coming the other way was a motor car, about 1910.
Yeah. So it just
something
captured.
Like that. And just the transition there was so cool. I really had to bid a lot for that. That was on eBay. But most of them I get for anywhere from $6 to $15 or so now. But I used to get them for 75 cents. Yeah. What happened is I got hooked on one particular photographer who was from Fall River. His name was O.E. Du Bois. He photographed the Sakonnet area. That's the other book I forgot about. He
so many.
Photographed the Sakonnet area from his studio in Fall River on a horse and buggy between roughly 1906 to 1914, in that period. Well, I did a book on him when I had 60 of his postcards, and they were everything from Westport, Little Compton, Tiverton, Portsmouth, Middletown. I found out later some from Jamestown. None from Newport, though, which is unusual. Anyway, I had 60 of his postcards. So I'll put a book together on that. I now have 660 of his postcards.
Oh, wow.
And people know that I'm collecting them. And
Yeah.
a lot of them that I don't buy are houses. He took, there's actually says on one postcard, this guy came by in his horse and buggy, took a picture of our house, and then he came back 2 weeks later and asked us if we wanted to buy a picture of our house. And so he was roaming all over the whole Sakonnet area. And he had a big photography business too, because I have pictures that he took of Oakland Farm, professional pictures that he took. But I mean, and just, I just
It's incredible.
overwhelmed. And the thing is, they are wonderful pictures. There's a picture of the stone bridge with a catboat beside it and a trolley coming across the bridge. I mean, it's just really neat.
You're getting me excited about history. It's really fantastic. So listen, we have just about a minute left, and I want to leave people with, it sounds like your collections are still growing.
Mm-hmm.
What do we want to tell people? Do you want people to bring you things, or no? Do you want people to come to your lectures? What would be your final words to everybody about kind of
Okay, first of all, as far as photographs and postcards and everything go, anything can be copied today. Okay, and so I'm very happy to digitally copy pictures if they want to loan them to me. Okay. So it isn't a matter of giving them to me necessarily. Okay. Second, I want more people to come to my lectures. I give lectures at the Historical Society. This year I did, I think, 8. Yep. And I get 80, 90 people. I want 150. Yeah. I gave some lectures at Common Fence Point, and I had well over 100.
We're going to have you again.
Come to those.
All right, and final thought for everybody.
Just enjoy your history, read your history, just love it. I mean,
it's wonderful.
There's so much.
All right. Well, great. Jim, thank you so
much
much for being on the show, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
My guest this week was Jim Garman, the Portsmouth Award winner this year for 2022, and our town historian. We'll see you next time on Portsmouth This Week.